I come from a long line of empaths, so for me, seeing ghosts is a normal, if not natural thing. But this is the first time I ever met an evil ghost. I believe it has attached itself to me. I move around a lot, for various reasons, and this same sort of thing has happened in the last city, but I'm fairly certain that I took care of that problem. 2 days ago, I was studying and concentrating on a book in my lap when I saw something white out of the corner of my eye. After the second or third time I saw it, I got up, but saw that there was nothing around. Specifically, nothing white that I could have imagined moving. And then earlier tonight, I was walking from the kitchen to the dining room when I heard a kind of shuffling sound behind me. I turned halfway and out of the corner of my eye, saw something white run at me, and then I felt a tug at my hair. At first, I chalked it up to exhaustion or my hair getting snagged on something, but then I felt cold and queasy. I am very sure that this is a ghost, but as this is the first time I've encountered such a powerful malicious spirit, I'm at a loss at how to deal with it. It also might be worth mentioning that this isn't the first time I've seen a ghost in this house, but the other ghost I saw was one that I've become comfortable with and regard as my guardian. I always saw it as a child, and when I continued to see it as I got older, I realized it wasn't an imaginary friend. Does anyone have any suggestions? I used to drive to Kennesaw every afternoon using Cherokee Street in Merida. For those familiar with this road, which is close to Merida's historic square, you'll know that it is on a historic neighborhood with big homes, some dated back to the middle and late 1800s. So, on one occasion driving on Cherokee Street, I saw a young black girl, maybe just 8 years old, walking along the pavement. The stunning thing about her was her appearance, and that she was alone at so young. She wore a gown or dress which looked very dirty and torn. It should have been white, but was very dirty. She wore no shoes, had short natural hair, and looked extremely distressed. As I looked in the rearview mirror, she was nowhere to be seen. I was so shocked that I just went off the road. I had to keep driving and maintain composure. The shock was she looked like she belonged to another time. I told my family about this, and my older sister was amazed because she saw her too, weeks earlier at the exact location, and described everything I saw. My guess is it was a residual haunting, maybe a slave girl. Has anyone in the area ever seen her? I've never heard of this account anywhere else, and I've searched the internet for a long time with no results. I experienced this in 2007, off Cherokee Street, just before getting to the Keystone Hospital on the same road. I never saw her again, but it was a traumatic experience, even if it only lasted a few seconds. My sister seeing her too, at a separate time, gave both of us chills. Did I see a spirit? Before I get into the ghostly experiences that I had in this house, and there were many, let me give you a history of the house. This house had 3 parts to it. It had a rock-covered middle that contained 2 rooms and 2 fireplaces, and a door going out to the back porch. It was once used as a hunting cabin for over 100 years. On each side of this rock structure, a wing was built. One wing contained 2 large rooms, with a fireplace in one room, which contained a door that led to the side porch. And the other wing contained 5 rooms, kitchen with a fireplace and a door that led to the back porch, a dining room with a door that led to the back porch, bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. My late husband, my 2 sons, and I lived mainly in the biggest wing and middle area. The other 2 rooms were closed off during the winter months, and one of the rooms was used for storage. The 2 wings were over 50 years old, and yes, our calculations are right. This house had 4 fireplaces, and 3 doors leading to the back porch, and a door leading to the side porch. Now, 4 people died in or near the house, my husband being the last. My husband, Geoff, of 6 years, died from congestive heart failure due to complications of diabetes. My husband died approximately 1 a.m. on March 14th, 1999. I found him the next morning at approximately 8 a.m., having slept by him all night. Geoff's mother died in the hospital near the house in 1992. His brother was shot and killed about a mile from the house, and his father died in the house in 1955. I moved in with Geoff in September 1993. I loved that old house. It was cozy and very roomy. I first started to notice cold drafts just in certain areas of the house, and on several occasions felt a presence behind me, mostly in the kitchen. The presence would be so strong that I would talk to it, thinking it was Geoff or one of my children, and then turn around to find no one there. I would shrug it off and go about to what I was doing. My oldest son, 5 at the time, came to me and told me that there was a man standing at the foot of his bed the night before, and it scared him so bad that he hid under the covers and went back to sleep. When I told Geoff this, he said that the house was haunted, and that he had seen his mother, father, and brother in the house at one time or another. I'm thinking, great. Through the years we lived there, 8 years. I have seen shadows moving through the rooms, and my sons are always hearing footsteps in their rooms. One day, Geoff and I were sitting in our bedroom watching TV. My 2 sons came running into our bedroom and said a man was at the door and wanted to know if we were home. The door that the man came to was the door off from the rock-structured part of the house. No one ever came to that door. There would have been no reason. Also, I have said before, all doors, with the exception of one, led to the back porch. And any visitors always knew to come to the kitchen door, because when you drove up to the house, the first door that you would see is the kitchen door. Off the back porch, there were 12 acres of land in front of the house. You could see far up the road each way. Anyway, back to the story. Geoff and I got up to see who it was. When we got to the door, there was no one there. Geoff went outside and went around the house and saw no one. We would have heard a car if this person had one. And if this man was on foot, we would have seen him before he got anywhere too far. That little incident puzzled me for a while. As I mentioned, my husband Geoff died in that house. After a while, I remarried and I shared the house with my new husband, Mike. Mike and I were watching TV one night in the rock-structured part of the house when all of a sudden, we both heard this breezy moan behind Mike's recliner. I looked at Mike but didn't say anything. Mike looked at me and asked if I heard that. I replied that I had and that it was Geoff. Mike said it was just the wind, but the wind was not blowing that night. I know that it was Geoff. I could feel his presence. Geoff was a very opinionated man, and I think he was showing his disapproval of Mike. Right after Mike and I married, we had his family over to the house for a cookout. Mike's granddaughter pulled Mike to the side and told him that she was sorry, but she would never come back to our house because there were bad spirits in the house. I'm sorry that this is such a long story, and this will be the longest of all my stories. Mike's grandmother was not the only one to feel uneasy in that house. Several of my friends told me that they too felt like something was there, and they would never figure out why I was not scared to stay at the house at night. But I had grown accustomed to all the shadows and other things, and it really never bothered me. About 10 years ago, I was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, which is about 10 miles from Columbus, Georgia. My family and I lived in some old housing on the post, which was built in the early years of the FDR administration, around 1934. At the time, my youngest children, a son and a daughter who were 2 and 4, the older girls were at college, so it was just the 4 of us. The style of our house was a 2-floor, 3-bedroom, and 3 baths in a stucco structure. The basement also had a bedroom and a bathroom, which was a maid's room. The houses have had little done to them over the years, other than the addition of air conditioning and gas heating. As a result, the houses have a lot of creaks and noises. Shortly after we moved in, my wife and children went to spend a summer with her dad in Kansas. One night after she left, I was sitting in the living room on the ground floor. It was about 10:30 p.m. I was watching TV, and I had the sound on low. Suddenly, I heard what appeared to be someone walking down the stairs from the second-floor bedroom. I turned off the sound and listened for a moment. Just as I was about to turn the sound back on, I heard the steps again. I got up and walked to the foot of the stairs. There was nothing there. I walked around the ground floor, verified that the doors were still locked, and went upstairs. Satisfied that nothing was there, I went back downstairs. Within a few minutes, I heard the sounds of steps again. Again, I went to the stairs, only this time at a run, hoping to catch whomever it was. Again, nothing. This went on continuously, but not every night. About 2 days after the time I first heard the steps in the stairway, I had a very strange experience in the master bedroom. As I mentioned, I was home alone as my wife was still with her dad. While I was sleeping at around 2 a.m., I felt a strong pressure on my back as I laid on my stomach. I woke up and tried to get back up, but I couldn't move. The force felt like a pair of hands were holding me down. I was instantly awake and tried to push myself up, but I was unable to do so. At first, I thought a burglar was doing it, perhaps in the process of robbing the home. But as I turned my head, I didn't see or hear anyone. After about 2 or 3 minutes of this pressure, it ended. I sat up and was terribly frightened. I had only one conclusion. There was some spirit in the house that apparently didn't like me being in the master bedroom. The next night, I was ready. I had my Bible open and I was reading the Psalms out loud. I walked to each bedroom and said the Lord's Prayer and asked our Savior Jesus Christ to protect all those who entered. When I lay down to sleep, I read a chapter of the Bible. I did this every night. The footsteps stopped and I no longer had any hands pushing me into the bed. All seemed to be well. Upon my wife's return, I didn't say anything to her about what I had experienced. I didn't want to scare her. Everything continued as normal until my second oldest, a freshman at Florida State, came to visit. She stayed in the small guest room. The next morning she asked me if I heard or felt anything strange in the house. I said no. Why? She said while she was getting ready for bed, she felt as though someone was in the room with her. And as she laid down to sleep, the door to the room suddenly opened very slowly. My daughter said that she looked through the dark, thinking it was either my wife or I. She saw nothing but felt someone sit on the bed next to her. She immediately went under the covers and she said the Lord's Prayer and asked for God's protection. She fell asleep after about an hour or so. She was too afraid to get up until the sun came up, at which time she was telling me about what happened. I asked her not to say anything to my wife or the little ones. She agreed. Eventually, she kind of got used to the strange feeling in the room whenever she visited us and just chalked it up to the house's age. After we left Fort Benning and my baby daughter was about 8 years old, she told me that in the master bedroom back in Fort Benning, she saw a dark figure that pushed her into the curtains. As a result, she said she never went into that room, especially when she was alone. She always said that in the room which she shared with her baby brother, she would always see figures, mostly women wearing what she described as old-time clothes. These figures didn't hurt her, but just looked at her and my baby brother. I then told my wife about what happened to me and my older daughter, as well as what the baby daughter had said. My wife said that she too felt creepy in the house and hated living there, but didn't say anything as she thought I would become worried. Back in 1998, I worked as a driver in Domino's in Catersville, Georgia. Several drivers, assistant managers, and the store manager had experienced several things that always happened on a Thursday night. No one wanted to work late on that night. I heard from my coworkers that they've had everything from seeing apparitions to having the lights being turned off while you're in the walk-in cooler, which the light switch is on the outside. I came back from a late night run to have the store manager meet me outside of the store and tell me that he kept seeing someone walk by him when he was the only one in the store. Being a skeptic, I shrugged it all off until I've experienced some rather odd events myself. I've noticed the odor of a burning cigar next to the oven and sometimes at the side door, usually on a Thursday night, even though there was nobody smoking in the store or outside for that matter. I've shrugged this off sometimes when the cook or other driver is smoking just outside the driver's entrance, but I've never seen anyone smoke a cigar. One night, again a Thursday night, it was bitterly cold outside. I think it was January, the usual time for cold weather in Georgia. A driver came in from a run and left the driver's entrance door open. I made the comment, "Geez, were you brought up in a barn?" and closed the door. About an hour later, I was cutting pizza at the cutting table when suddenly the driver's entrance door opened by itself. This was a heavy metal door with a long bar used to open it. It made a distinctive sound when someone opened it to leave the building. I heard that sound as if someone from the inside was opening it to leave the building. But no one was there. Even though it was very cold outside, it was not windy, so still to this day I do not know how it opened on its own. Maybe the spirits wanted to mess with me. Domino's had closed down the store about 2 years later and opened 2 new stores to service a growing city population. I went to the North store and never heard or seen anything else. However, the old oven was salvaged and installed in the South store, where years later I came across a former assistant manager that worked there. He now works with me at a call center. He told me of several of his coworkers telling him that they experienced odd things there. One was of a ghostly driver that stood in the office apparently waiting to check out for the night. As a side note, there was a retired older black man that worked part-time at the old store who had a massive stroke coming back from a run. He died about a week later. Was Mr. Jones still working at Domino's? I had to make the Haunted Domino's the last story I did. I had to. It spoke to me on a spiritual level. I love Domino's. I love pizza. I would haunt the fuck out of a pizza place. Because I have no life. Yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed. Georgia, represent. You guys got a lot of good ghost stories. Like, a lot. I was digging through all of them, and I just picked the ones that spoke to me the most. So I hope you enjoyed them. Secret word of the day. Dr. Pepper, because that's what I'm drinking. I'm supposed to only be drinking water and that's it, but I had to drink me some Dr. Pepper. I was craving Dr. Pepper. But yeah, as always, my last video will be on the top left. My next video will be on the bottom left. My social medias will all be on the screen right here, as well as in the description below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.